And so if someone is anxious and they were with someone who's, I say, for example, avoidant, which comes to the next one now, how would that dynamic play out?
That's a bad dynamic. That's the one because the needs are that anxious and avoidant people have in the context of relationships are very different. It can lead to what's called a demand withdrawal pattern that you see sometimes in couples. So this pattern is when one partner demands something or really wants something from the other, and the other partner withdraws because they either like the status quo or they can't deliver what the person wants, or they feel awkward delivering what a person wants. And so anxious people are motivated to uh, be close, spend a lot of time together, and feel greater security in the relationship. Avoidant people, they are more motivated to be self-reliant. Uh, they value relationships, but they want them to be on their own terms, which oftentimes involves more, I wouldn't say distance. Well, it could sometimes be physical distance or emotional distance, but more space to be the kind of person I want to be, and then to kind of like engage when they feel ready to engage on their terms.
Okay, taking a step back now, because a lot of my friends would tell me if they are anxious or avoidant, that they feel there is something wrong with them, especially anxious attachment. They feel like they're broken or damaged or there's something wrong with them. Is that the right way to view that attachment style?
Yeah, I think that's the wrong way to view it. I mean, initially, when the theory was being tested, basically. The assumption was that if you were insecure, that was problematic. But these styles are largely a reflection of how you've been treated in the past by close people, close others. And so it is functional at some level, at a big level, in fact, to be anxious if you never know where you have stood in the past with people and you have to kind of constantly get reaffirmation that you're a worthwhile person that they're going to stay with. And avoidant people have experienced a lot of rejection in the past. They've not been treated well. I mean, you don't become avoidant just, out of the blue. You become avoidant or anxious based upon how you've been treated, sometimes by parents, sometimes by friends, sometimes by other close people in your life, prior romantic partners, etc. So these insecure styles are actually adaptive behavioral and emotional strategies to make the best situation, or make the best of a bad situation. And what the problem is, they bring these, once they're developed, they bring anxiety and avoidance into new relationships with new partners, and those new partners may not treat them badly. They may treat them well, but some of the vestige of that past comes into the current relationship.
You mentioned that these styles are adaptive. What do you mean by that?
I mean, they're adaptive in that they allow a person to regulate their emotions as their negative emotions as best they can. They're adaptive in that they protect people from perhaps being taken advantage of by people who either really don't care for them or have ulterior motives that don't include them. And so um, adaptive that's a good question actually, because adaptive can mean different kinds of things in different contexts. And here what we're talking about is, from their own personal standpoint, it's sort of a way to protect the self, to make sure that you aren't taken further advantage of in new relationships, given what you've experienced in the past.
I think that also brings me to another point that is this nature or nurture. If it's something that we adapt in our environment, you kind of you be able to understand our environment, or is it something that we're kind of born with? Where do these styles actually come from?
That's another very good question. I mean, initially, the primary developers of the theory thought it was largely based upon environmental experience and not genetics, for example. Um, and some of the early research, and this is still ongoing, indicated that attachment styles have a very, very small genetic component, and it's mainly you basically become secure if you've been treated well in the past by attachment figures, and you become insecure if you've been treated in an unpredictable way, that's anxiety, or in a rejecting way, more consistently rejecting way, That's avoidance. But there is some new evidence coming out with larger genetic studies to show that maybe the genetic component for some of the styles is a little bit larger than negligible. But even those studies are showing that most of the underlying source of it is actually how you've been treated, as far as I can tell in the current literature. So
Mm.
there's a little genetic component to it, especially for anxiety, it looks like. Not so much for avoidance, um, but it's primarily a function of, again, how you've been treated, or how you represent in your head how you've been treated. That's an important point because what happens is you don't remember a lot of what happens to you as a child, especially before you have the ability to remember things. And what you're doing as an adult is you're thinking about what was my childhood like. So you're creating a representation in your head of it that may or may not be accurate. And usually it's a combination of what actually happened and stuff that you've inferred that may either might have happened or may not have happened, or may not have happened in the way that you remember. And so that's another part of it too, is the we call those working models. They're kind of like schemas or attitudes in your head, expectations that you have about how you are likely to be treated given how you've been treated in the past.
That's a very good point, and I want to stay here for a while. So you mentioned specific experiences. What are some of the specific experiences in early life that if you went through this, it could be that you would turn out with this attachment style? And I know it's kind
Yeah.
of like you mentioned, it's different for everyone, but is there some experiences that someone listening could kind of like relate to that would give us something?
Yeah. I think, well, that's another excellent question. What Bowlby talked about is Bowlby was the developer of attachment theory back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What he talked about were experiences that were traumatic, or were difficult. So when you felt overly challenged, when you were ill, when you felt threatened, especially when you were vulnerable. And so the idea, and I think this is probably true, is that when a person is distressed at any age and needs soothing and needs to be, you know, feel more secure, what did that caregiver, be it a mother or a father or a close friend or an adulthood romantic partner, how did they handle that, right? How did they handle it? Were they able to effectively soothe you? Were they able to kind of give you the confidence that you needed once you were soothed to go out and live your life in the world? Those were probably the primary events early on in life that shaped the way you relate to other people later on. And so, for example, be real concrete. Let's say that you had a parent who, whenever you would get hurt at a young age, 5, 6, 8, um, their attitude was, suck it up, shake it off, um, you know, take care of it, as opposed to, oh, what happened? Let me take a look. Tell me how it happened. Here, I'll do some stuff to make you feel better, both physically and emotionally. Those are very different ways that parents may relate to kids, and that sticks with people. That sticks with people. And so if you were told to suck it up, you become self-reliant. You become avoidant, usually. If you were attended to and you were given good support, you learn that that's what you're supposed to do when people are hurt and they come to you for support. And so it's modeling kind of. Modeling is part of the behavioral pattern, that links the past to the present.
It's fascinating, so fascinating how parenting styles and attachment styles often link. I want to
Mhm.
now kind of like, before I move on to the study they did, the longitudinal study, the
Yeah.
question I'm thinking listening to this is that can someone actually change their attachment style, or is it something that they're stuck with?